if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting because the concept of judgment is coming up a lot in a lot of different ways for me today, just today, really, and yesterday. Then, just as I'm working with people and talking with people, and I'm like, ooh, there's a. I do work with internal family systems with people a lot, and like, ooh, there's a spirit of judgment. Ooh, there's your judgment protector, trying to keep something safe, some core wound safe inside of you or whatever. So and it makes me think about on my own deconstruction journey of like, for me, deconstructing the concept of hell. So the Bible actually has two words. We in English, as our poor translation has done to the Bible, has taken these two words and just blanketed everything with the word hell.
Oh.
So there's actually two words, Sheol and Gehenna. And Gehenna was a place outside of Jerusalem. It was like a trash dump where they like dumped literally all the trash from the place. And it was a stinking, rotten, nasty, gross place. And so in the New Testament, it's often the word in our English Bibles, when you see the word hell in the New Testament, you got to do a little more digging and like, was the word Gehenna? Because
Is it just a trash
they're
dump?
referring to the city dump. Literally.
I love that I've read my Bible in the past. I'm like, oh, it's a burning like hellhole of terrible. And no, it's a trash dump outside of Jerusalem.
It's a trash dump
It's
where
the
they
dumpster.
lit literal fires to burn the trash. Like, okay, let's put it in perspective.
Wow.
It's pretty comical to me. I'm like, man, we have built a massive theology around eternal conscious torment based on a city trash dump. Okay, anyway, I digress. I'm gonna make some people mad.
That's really funny.
Who really cling to hell and their ideas of torture for eternity. So, anyways, and then Sheol is like literally like this waiting place.
What?
Yeah, it means waiting place. It's more akin to the Catholic idea of purgatory.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
that's cool.
as I've kind of done some more study and deconstruction around the idea of this eternal conscious torment and the devil and things like, because those are the things really, like, those are the undercurrent, those are the underpinnings of duty and obligation for me. So if we get into sort of my past and what freedom looked like, how things were defined, freedom and obligation in my past were like sort of built on this foundation of judgment and eternal conscious torment, aka hell, for not choosing to have a relationship with Jesus, like not choosing him as my Lord and Savior and saying the prayer and being baptized and all the things, which I was like, I did all those things. But that was sort of the framework as I lived and moved and coexisted with people. It was my job to inform them of this foundation that we all stand on, like the foundation of a house, right? Like, it was built on the fact that you had a choice to make, freedom. But if you choose wrong, you're going to hell and you will remain there for all eternity, burning, consciously aware of your separation from God. And the fact that here on this day, I have informed you and I have let you know that this is your choice. So, I'm now free of responsibility because I told you. I told you so. So now
you've been warned.
So now I, as an individual soul who's obligated to God to like spread the gospel, I've done my duty with you. So check, I'm free of that, obligation to inform you of that. So now my soul is, quote, safe on some level because I fulfilled my obligation. And so now you have a responsibility as the recipient of that knowledge to make the choice to step into a relationship with Jesus, accept him as your Lord and Savior, and commit your life to him and obligate your life to him and be dutiful for the rest of your life to perform certain tasks and responsibilities, like the one I just performed, to tell
Mm-hmm.
everyone this quote truth, or they are going to go to hell. So it's like this, just this domino effect built on judgment, eternal torment,
And a trash dump outside of
separation from
Jerusalem.
God. Yeah. So, and so that was like that was the end game as a Christian for me. Like that's what
Hmm.
everything hinged on. Those were the beliefs. And because those were the beliefs, like that was the most important one. But in my daily life, just like as a wife and a Christian wife, Christian mother, Christian friend, there were other duties and obligations like kind of piled on top of those things, on top of that foundation. And so if I wasn't doing well at those other things too, I run the risk of, I don't know, like losing my salvation in some way, like, or at least my crown wasn't going to be big enough or have enough jewels in it, or like,
Mm-hmm.
like that whole teaching of like you, all your good deeds or something, like add jewels to your crown or something. Is
Oh,
that new to
that's
you?
new to me.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, it's weird.
I
We
have a
didn't
lot of
spend a whole
jewels in
lot of
my
time on
crown.
that,
That's
but
crazy.
yeah. But yeah, somehow like if I wasn't, for me the teaching was kind of, it wasn't outright, but it was like sort of this background understanding. It's how cults work a lot of times. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not outright. We're not going to say that outright. But
But we
it's,
all know.
yeah, but it's this sort of program running in the background of the computer that is like, if you're not being a good disciple, if you're not measuring up, you're falling short, and you're not very spiritual. And if you're not spiritual, you run the risk of being, of like losing your faith, or I don't know, you're just like, it's like you're getting further away from God.
Hmm.
There was this saying, they really like to use the scripture, like even your righteousness is like dirty rags to God, and so
Oh
like
yeah.
there's all this measuring up to be done. And so there never really was freedom.
Hmm.
I was told that that was freedom,
Just didn't
uh,
feel like it.
but it didn't feel anything like freedom. There was
Mm.
no joy, there was no peace. But that's the traumatic part of it, because I was being told that this is what peace and joy is. It's these duties, it's these obligations, and it's how well you perform those to the right standard. And if you've performed well and you've met the standard, your church leadership will be proud of you, which means God will be proud of you. And your church leadership will move you into your own position of leadership. You'll be trusted with discipling another person, with maybe leading a small group, with maybe leading a house church, with maybe leading a church someday. Like it was the church leadership that chose
Hmm.
those people for those roles, paired people together in these discipling relationships. And so it was like all in this headspace of, okay, if I'm being um, elevated into leadership positions, that's what means I'm doing well, quote, spiritually. And that's what defines, ooh, I'm getting emotion coming up from that. That's what defines my father being proud of me and
Mm-hmm.
welcoming me. And it's always this constant uh, pursuit of, well done, good and faithful servant.
Mm.
That you get to heaven one day and God's either going to say, well done, good and faithful servant, or depart from me, I never knew you. And it's all based on how well you kept the standard. And the church measured the standard by promoting you through the ranks of leadership. And I was never in leadership until much, 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 much later, after a lot of stuff went down in the church. But I mean, I was told I couldn't sing in, I'm a singer, but I was told I couldn't sing like up on stage, like lead parts singing, because I was overweight. And I wasn't a good
What?
example, because being overweight is lack of discipline. And so you're not a good example. And I just spoke with someone this week, a friend of mine, who was told the very same thing in the same church. Like,
You're kidding.
no. So
That fires me up a little bit. Mm-mm.
so this is this is my past. This is my experience. And this is my journey of kind of having to deconstruct the idea of freedom. And that's why I feel so excited to talk about it this month, because it's like, as I have been set free from all of that, as I've come out of all of those cages and out of all of those things, I now experience this incredible sense of freedom. And the only way I know it's freedom is because it feels so good. It feels so good in my heart. I feel good in my spirit. I feel happy. I feel peace. I feel joy. The world can be going to shit all around me, and I still feel peaceful.
Mm.
I'm still full of joy. I'm still happy. Or I can still tap into those feelings, even though everything around me is looking horrible, maybe, And so my journey of like understanding what hell really is, that there is the experience of hell. I just believe it's right here and now.
Yeah.
It's my delusional sense that I am ever separated from God, or anyone is ever separated from God. It's just not true. I can close my eyes to it. I can be unaware of it. I can choose to be unaware of it. But that doesn't change the fact that I am never separated, nor is anyone else, from God. And that's in the Bible. Like, oh, what about that one?
Even in the depths of hell, you were there.
Even in the depths of hell, if I made my bed in the very depths of hell, you would still be there. So there's an immense amount of freedom that brings to me to just experience my life, to not judge myself and not like crucify myself for making mistakes and going a different direction than maybe then would have been a better one. Like, and I don't have to crucify anyone else for their mistakes. I don't have to like carry this weight and this responsibility to save souls from going to eternal conscious torment, damnation, hell, because for me, that does not exist. That's not where I'm at. Jesus said, "It is finished." He went to the depths of hell, broke every contract, set free every sinner. It is finished. I have done it. I have conquered it. It's all done in me, he says. So now the power that I have living in him and living in that knowledge, understanding that I'm made of the stuff of Christ. What could go wrong? Things can feel bad. Things can, like not feel good to me. But that's just the guidance system I have built into my body to tell me when I'm not aligned with the things of Christ. Because he is love, right? So if I'm outside of love, I'm walking in fear. If I'm outside of love, I'm not loving my neighbor as myself. I'm not feeling good. Something's not feeling good. Because alignment with that, alignment with love, alignment with divinity, alignment with purpose, true holistic purpose, feels good. So freedom feels good. And so that's how, for me now, I can like, that's my sort of measuring stick of like, When am I walking in freedom? Okay. Am I feeling good? Am I feeling peace? Am I feeling joy? Am I feeling happy? Am I feeling those high vibrational emotions? Then I'm walking in my freedom and I'm making good choices. Am I feeling bad? Am I fearful? Am I anxious? Am I terrified? Am I angry? Am I frustrated? Okay. I'm not in alignment somewhere. Something's off. Let me sit down. Let me go into myself. Let's do some work, figure out, what's happening, ask myself some questions, figure out what's happening and realign myself, make a different choice somewhere to realign with love and prosperity and abundance and all the great things that Jesus said he came to bring to our planet. He said the kingdom is inside of you, his kingdom, his abundant way of living. That's what the kingdom is. It's an abundance life, a fully abundant life, which the Becoming Home podcast is a project of fullyabundantlife.com. Oh gosh.
Go look it up.
So that's what freedom was and is to me now, and sort of the journey of getting from there to here. And so, yeah, so now that's my goal. My goal isn't now to go find people and tell them they're going to hell and they better change their mind. My goal now is to help people know, hey, there is no separation. That's the big delusion. And by the way, it's what creates the good news. The good news is we're not separated. We're not something else. We're not other. We are one with the Creator. We are one with each other. And if we could all just turn our minds to that direction, what would happen? World peace. we wouldn't
just
have
to name
so many people in jail, like making all these horrible choices. Like, really, that's what turns the whole world around. When we stop picking apart ourselves and our neighbor and seeing ourselves as different and seeing ourselves as dirty, rotten rags who can't do anything right by God. And so why bother? The
That's
shift and
powerful.
the change happens when you turn your mind toward, and Jesus said it all over the Bible. Why, Christians, why do we spend so much time now talking about and singing in our worship songs how unworthy we are and how we're just wretched sinners and thank God you saved us? Like, that's not the mindset that Jesus ever wanted us to have.
Yeah. I think I just told you about how I had to rewrite a song in my mind from how they were saying it at church, because it was about how Jesus is the only one that's worthy. And that's all the song said. Like, there was more to it, obviously, but it was like basically saying Jesus is the only worthy one. And I had to sit there and I was like, I've got the stuff of God in me, so I'm also worthy.
Yes.
And I was sitting there and I was like, I'm not going to be walking out of church today. So how are we going to do this instead? Because I just haven't done it yet. Don't want to do it if I can help it. But anyway, I was sitting there and I was like, okay, this is triggering for me because my big overarching life lie is
your core wound.
You're not. Oh yeah, thank you. That's what it's called. Is you are not enough.
Yeah.
And this song was like, you're not enough. You're not enough. You're not enough. Jesus. That was it. And I was like, so
we have to stop that as Christians.
Yeah.
Like,
so
oh my gosh.
I just had to rewrite it. And I was like, okay, Jesus is the only one worthy of holding this specific place in my heart. And I was like, that's true. I do only want Jesus in this place in my heart.
Yeah.
Okay. Good talk. Yeah. And thankfully the song ended after that. But goodness, it's not fun. Like, going to church for me is a lot harder than it's ever been because I'm hearing these messages now. And it's like what you talked about in the cult. Like, it's just this background noise that you're like, I mean, for me, I'm so I'm so immune to it because that's what I grew up with. I'm like, oh yeah. Like, I started singing the song and I started reading the words on the screen and I was like,
a minute.
Wait, that does not feel good.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I love what you said though. That's it's just powerful how your story started off with like feeling like freedom was supposed to be in these rules and in these regulations and obligations, and that you just didn't find it, but that you're able to now that you have found the freedom, you are on a mission to free others. Because I feel like, I mean, that's like every Christian's like thing that they talk about, oh, I'm gonna go free the world, but like we are all free. It's the realization that we are free that
Yes.
is the actual freedom.
Yes. That brings the feeling of freedom.
Yes, yeah, that's a better way to say it.
It's like we in our old cultish toxic religion, those of us who were in that, not everyone was or is, but those of us who were and have recognized that and come out of that, like freedom used to feel, it's like what's that syndrome, Stockholm syndrome, is that what it is,
No
where
idea.
like you are, you form this weird bond with your abuser, and so like you protect them and you stick up for them even though they kidnapped you from your real family.
Mm,
Like you're a kidnapped prisoner in this person's home, like literally. It's a it, they've studied it with people who have been kidnapped and like have been kept alive, because a lot of, doesn't turn out so good, but people who have been living in captivity for a long period of time are pretty commonly known to develop this thing. I think, I'm pretty sure it's called Stockholm syndrome. Can you just fact
yep.
check me real quick? Where they begin to identify with their abuser and they form a bond with them.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
That's
right?
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
Stockholm syndrome.
Okay. So they form this bond and then they are like fiercely loyal
Mm-hmm.
to this
Wow.
abuser. It's like what toxic Christianity is.
Yeah,
We have been kidnapped
by the church.
by the church, or like, uh, well meaning but ill informed people.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been told a specific definition of freedom and love, by the way.
That is very true.
And we've been given this definition. And so it's like we've been kidnapped and put in this hole. And every single day, at every meal, in every interaction, we're being told what freedom is, what love is, and all the things. And so we begin to develop this idea, this twisted, tormented idea of what those things are. Someday, the police break in and set this kidnapped person free. They bring them out into the world. Their initial time in the world is hella traumatic because they are having to come to grips with the fact, A, that they were kidnapped and that they weren't in their natural environment.
Mm,
B, that the things they were told about freedom and love are not, that's not real. It's like you have to convince them that they were lied to. You have to show them slowly, gently over time. I felt like it was the same for me. Like God was so slow and gentle with me, pulling me out. And it doesn't happen that way for everyone. But for me, that's just how it happened for me. Like there were just one little concept at a time was
mm,
kind of being picked apart and like crumbled. But it's kind of the same thing with someone I would imagine
mm.
that has gone through Stockholm syndrome, that it's just one little thing at a time that they have to relearn. And they relearn it by being in a healthy environments in society. And so now that I feel like, we were going to kind of finish off with what do we need more of in our society and as people, as individuals, and as communities, to experience more of this freedom. We need healthy people to start speaking out about what healthy love really is.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on the Becoming Home podcast, where we're talking about freedom here in July. Don't forget, you can run over to buymeacoffee.com/the Becoming Home podcast to buy us a coffee. Finally, in our last week, we're going to be talking about what we need as a society to experience more freedom. We're going to get into judgment and perspectives and even tools like Reiki and tarot cards. And are those included in our freedom? Come back next week. We'll find out.